Hello, you later watchers, you watchers from laterings. Everyone else is, of course, watching adverts. Here, I'm Tradespotting. Thanks very much for those of you who hit the like button. Welcome all those new subscribers. Wow. Every day. Brilliant. Every day. I'm here every day doing TA on your favourite stonk and mine, GME. And other ones that may or may not come up. 149.06 at the minute. Woo! Look at that in the chat box. Shadow of Lepton, K-Beers, Death of Banana Freeze, Burns and Burner. But Death of a Banana Freeze. Oh my god. This is tragedy. Brave DeLorean Buck. Got your office set up, huh? Colin, ha! That's good news. This is the chart for GME. We're on the 30-minute time frame. Turn on the moving averages. Thank you very much. We're below the 200 period moving average. Very tight, constricted Donchian channels on this tiny time frame here. A little bit of a squeeze. Below the 200 period moving average, and you've got a sell signal on the MACD. You've currently held the center line on the RSI, but you're flirting with or already have lost your own moving average. And if that doesn't turn into a positive trend with a higher high back inside the bullish control zone, price action break this 200 period moving average on 30 time frame, which doesn't look like it's in a rush to do, especially if the ADX falling down, then this is a negative, right? This is a negative weakness. Also, what with the old borrow rates are so expensive, and like yourself there, nice to meet you. Probably quite contrarian to have ended up here. Let's be honest. And there are times where you have to recognize and manage your own personality. So when the borrow rates shoot up extremely high on GME, you've been perhaps inclined to think, that's fantastic, right? They're short even more, excellent. Prices are going to go up. We're going to go flying up there because the cost to borrow is so expensive and the availability of shares to short is therefore so low, is the common thinking. And that's what people think because they're contrarian. Like yourself, like me, we tend to be that way sometimes. But, you know, there's also the reason why it's going up. And what that would commonly mean. There's no need to be irrational. We can be unreasonable, but we're not irrational. Right? And anyway, it's other people that judge how reasonable you are or aren't. You're just being yourself. So here's the Donchian channels on this 30-minute time frame. The bottom side's red, top side's green. You've had one lower touch on that, and you've had a lower high and a lower low. As you can see, it helps to identify the trend slightly. Negative cross on the MACD. Flux on the DMI, period of volatility is just kicked off. Bum-ba-da-bum, bum-ba-da-bum-bum-bum. That'll pick up on the HVP. You'll see this start to go up. Perhaps it'll do these yellow or red things. Little yellow or red things. And 30 minutes, that's two 15-minute time frames. Wow. Two. You tells me Tradespotting. I do. I tells you two. So here's the RSI. It's lost the center line. It's lost its own moving average. There's continuation on that sell signal you got in that high. It does look as though GME is going to come back down. It lost to 236. And at that stage we said, you know, up around 169 will down be resistance. And we're expecting the price to come back down to around 110. Basis line of that channel is around 126. It's a downward sloping channel, so that'll decrease and it'll probably meet the gap at around $122. And I open up Twitter, and the thing at the top of my feed is, oh my god, no one expected that to happen. GME down on a hype day or whatever. It's like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe nobody expected it. Then the next tweet I read was your friend and mine, Justin Pickerel, saying to somebody who was expressing their frustrations with the inability to manage their expectations with regards to price action. They should check out Tradespotting. It was like, nobody knows. Nobody will ever know. It's like, okay, Maybe that's also it. So you've had a positive cross, and the 50 simple has gone up through the 200 simple. But price action itself is tested to 200 subsequent to that cross of the 50, and then is at the minute resting on that 50, perhaps gone below it. I think I even has, let's get right in there and take a peek. Oops, right on it. So that's bullish, right? It is bullish, but in context, not so much, right? Not so much. Having broken through here, lower highs Donchian channel. Obviously, you've got the contraction here in 15 minutes, and you're going to see all that. The 4 hours much better picture of the Donchions, and you can see you're putting in that situation there with the lower side is getting lower, and the top side is coming down, right? Coming down, down, down. There's a look back period on this that takes it from the previous high, so you can see straight off the bat where 14 of them are. 14 to go, and here's the daily time frame. And within the last part of this trend, subsequent, like it hasn't put in any higher highs or nothing. Nothing. And in that move, not fabulous, right? Not absolutely fabulous. Donchian channel's lower. High, sure, right? But like compared to your previous high, clearly not. And the Donchian lower side, low. Ooh, and then you got let's hear a little bit of a squeeze coming in. So we'll see, right? We'll see. Volatility is picking up too. We've got that signature. Whoop, whoop, whoop. What time frame was that on? Did we get that flash? Might have been something way down here. Nah, it wasn't so crazy price action there. Though you do see in the 15-second time frame price actions ranging at the minute, slightly higher highs, slightly higher lows. But the negative trends in ascendancy, there's that volatility come through there. 15-second, 1 minute time frame, don't see it there yet. 50 simple, 200 providing some range. End of the day, doesn't look dramatic yet. But if it is to crunch down, then you'd see it, 147. Oh my goodness, all the way down there, a whole dollar off a thing. Oh my goodness. Well, it's a joke, but it's market structure. We don't want it changed. Here's this top side of the Donchian channels and 50 simple period moving average on a 5-minute time frame. The volatility is picked up. Here you see a degree redlining, right? That's in comparison to its previous 100 periods. And you see the Donchian channel with the look back period of 14, which defines the range and the volatility within it. And you can see that might be increasing while this range here contracts, and then the lower highs situation that we've talked about. You've got a positive display in the moving averages there. 30-minute time frame where we began a lot of this is negative. You have managed to recover above that 50 simple. Obviously, these lower highs, not fantastically enthusiastic about them. Let's turn them off there. It's a little bit distracting for the casual viewer, perhaps. And let's take away the HVP because it's done its job. And plus, we've got that signature from Rocky Outcrops Indicator. So, interesting there, right? So, there's 236. That'll likely be resistance for a while, up 167 to 169. Do you want to drop on there, please, computer? Negotiate with the computer whether it, strange world we live in. Thanks, computer. So, price action here, yeah, exactly the same story. You don't want to drop below the center line, but you're doing it right now. Right now, Tradespotting with 44 minutes left. And we'll come back and we'll do an assessment of the day when price action finishes. And we close the day. Close the day, price action, then this video will end. Oh, dearie me. Oh, dearie me. So this was your downward sloping channel, right? Clearly, price action went to the top side here, but it's still relevant, right? Still relevant because price action was finding support at this previous supply line, now demand. You haven't managed to make it back above the 50 simple in any decisive way on the AMC here on this tiny 30-minute time frame, and you can see negative splay between those two moving averages and negative slope. You're well and truly below the center line, hoping that you catch this trend line here. Hoping against hope, perhaps. You've managed to break out of this formation, so that's positive, but where are you looking to this at? It's not exactly very dramatic, is it? And you're already back inside the bearish control zone. At which stage, right? This is the liquidity zone you're aiming for in there, down at 1650, starting there and down at 1580. That's what it looks like on 30 minutes. Again, similar picture in that you've got the negative momentum, and having made it into the bullish control zone, that was a bit of a rejection for a horizontal level at 1928, and you can see you had positive cross on DMI. That looked quite good but here we are on 30 minutes, and you're also getting this cross on the MACDs. It's a valid sell signal below the 200 period moving average. This is like very close in terms of the range that this thing would be going through, but it's a significant percentage. You're already down 7.31% today. So these are the things to manage your position. You want to be non-emotional when you're making your trade. So you want to have done your technical analysis in advance so that you've got that to rely on, as opposed to your feelings, which are obviously going to change in the face of price action, especially depending on how it does it. It could get there in a very dramatic swish, whoosh, and scare people. But if all your indicators say buy, then it's better to not be emotional and see if we are aware of the plan. So anyway, let's go back up to your daily time frame. What does it look like? It still looks like it has looked for a while. Certainly not managing to break anything significant in this trend, and this is not a very enthusiastic reaction. And then in terms of daily candles, that's, pretty not great there. 1733, right? But for a not terrible, if you had a better open, this would be an overall worse situation, because you'd have obviously this idea of a bearish engulfing. If I've got a lower close currently than yesterday, should that be yesterday's open, mind you, but it's exceeding this range within the candle, and that's not positive. Komodo Dash, yo, do you mind going a little deeper on the long-term trend of GME? Oh my God, Banana, yeah. Banana, yeah. How are you? Are you okay? Yeah. Oh, she's indestructible. Happy National Banana Day, America. Happy 420. Everybody else, do you mind going a little deeper on the long-term trend, Jamie, and how you see the stock splits impact on price action? Thanks. Whoop-a-da-bam-bam. We're going to have a quick look at that. Come on, you betcha. Thanks very much for the facts. So that's what I'm talking about there. Daily trend, candle, you really don't want to lose much more on this. So the next few minutes hopefully aren't terrible. We've got 2 minutes left. Get out of my face, stupid news things. If I'd read that crappy news. Right, so, this was negative. Below the 50 simple there on daily, that's a rejection. There's a number of rejections. This rectangle formation so far, you'd be hoping that would prove to be a bottom, but I don't see that enthusiasm when you've broken through the centerline RSI. You've got the follow through from that previous cross there. It looks like extending into confirmation signals on that. And, this is like a bearish inflection at the minute. That's what I'd say about both AMC and GME. And perhaps, I very much suspect that AMC is the one that, despite having like greater range on positive days sometimes, takes a greater lead from GME with regards to its trend. I just think that it's not biased or that, though if I am biased, it's somewhat moderated by how hard I am to please. Anyway, AMC, it tends to take a lead from GME. That's my general feeling about things. So GME looks like it's coming back to fill this gap, and as the basis line within this channel haven't touched the top side of it, support would be normal. There's a 50 simple period moving average. It's below the 200. You'd look to that for support at the current time. That's an easy way to manage your own expectations, and it'll help you with trading if you're able to do that sort of thing. So here we have GME, longy-term terms. So I suspect this is not actually a channel. It is on its own, but in greater context, it's potentially a bull flag. GME, add on, carry on. Thank you very much. So thank you very, very much. Okay. So, and yourself, Commodus. Thank you. 200 period moving average also comes in around a 1.13 extension of this formation here. If you did drop out at the bottom of it and had bullish divergence, the weekly time frame here, right? So significant things happen. And this fits with the bull flag. Depends how you want to do your own particular level of optimism with regards to how you'd take the measured move. It fits the rules for a number of ways of doing it. And then as such, you've got that speaks to the flexibility of the formation it's in, and so many different bullish theses will come from that. And that's like a greater formation on charts, right? That it's potentially doing that sort of thing. Looks great, right? Looks great. But there's also the fact that there is a stock split, and the market capitalization of the company won't change based on the stock split. It'll still be the same, but there'll be more shares, which will lead to a change in prices. To lead to a change in prices, those shares will only be available to people who already own the stock. So, as you can see, there's a demand and supply dynamic based on the rules there. So that doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to see the shares value drop by the same proportion that the new liquidity. That's not going to be directly correlated. There will be the event, there'll be that calculation done, and there'll be the adjustments that people make with regards to their own expectations of a price. But the only people who are going to be able to get those shares in the first instance are people who already own it. And a lot of them are, say, for example, like 10% of this lockdown DRS. Others are already shareholders of the company, vested interests exist on the board. So, as soon as they are released to the people who have demonstrated for over a year that they're long-term holders, like most of us, then what's going to happen is we're going to hold on to those shares because we were always trying to get as many as we could in the first place. And bing bong, the price is wrong, so we'll be happy with that. And so really, it was all like, so until that event, that's what I think about it. There will be implication for price action, and it might take us outside this formation to the downside. The extension here would be around what about one previous low here. This is where we famously called it again, and where most people gave Tradespotting that oxygen to breathe. Thanks very much for everybody who's ever supported the channel. And it might well be that you come back in and get a test of that area. That's be a significant discount compared to what you're at the minute, considering how many shares are getting put on the table. So, would you really look to that level of a move? There's a 200 period moving average in the 1.13 extension at $60. That would be lower than your previous low. Depending on when it happens, it wouldn't be outside this particular formation, which would still retain its bullish posture and implications for price action. And then, right, bing bong, the price is wrong, but maybe not for long after that, should it get there, right? And I know that's horrific talking about that sort of thing from $150. I'm not saying that that's going to happen either, but it would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Within this formation, you can see that you get a 786 retracement here down to $90 again. That wouldn't like break anything about the overall trend. You could like have a really positive reaction afterwards. And so like, even though it might seem scary getting down there, that's like partly feelings would be informed by what you would anticipate happen next. But we can speak about it here with a degree of clarity and pragmatism and say that like in some senses, right, good news because it's a bargain. Other senses we can understand like the way that formation goes. We've had 3 touches of the top side of this. We've only just made it valid, right? We've only just really on the weekly time frame given this bull flag formation its final confirmation as being possible. And now it might come with a kickoff at the basis line. It might be a slightly deeper extension. But all of that's like good news, right? It is, although sometimes it doesn't feel like it because you can't see the finish line yourself in any one stage during this, right? I think that this is overall very, very positive. Even if it does manage to come back to test those levels, which is not necessary, right? Not necessary. Today, the daily time frame, there's your 236 of this Fibonacci here. It comes into 78, right? You haven't managed to make it back above the 618 in this in a long time. When you have done on the daily time frame, it's been a very quick-lived experience. So, that's still the target to the top side. That's still the top side of this formation, more or less, and that's where we were most recently. That's what you would have expected, perhaps, having broken this, like held that 236 really on that test. And at this stage, you've got your 382. So, after you touch the top side, maybe you come back, find support. Maybe it's a slightly higher fib level, might be possible in an upper sloping trend, that being at $103. And you've got the Fibonacci here with the golden pocket with the Fibonacci, like you're currently in, the one that's on this leg of price action. It's golden pockets right in there at $111, right? And that's nearly, right, I want to speak clearly to help people as best possible and answer the questions that Komododosh and Koki contributed to and explain this in the best possible way, which speaks directly to you. And I don't want to talk about it in terms that would be seen to be fuddy. And at the same time, I don't want to speak about moves to the downside using euphemisms to try and make you feel positive about something that isn't necessarily your own feelings, right? You're totally and utterly welcome to feel upset or panicky about price action or find my take on it distasteful if that's how you want. But if you plan for it in advance and think about this thing in context, right? Now, when I say context, I mean from this, right? Whether or not you bought it down here isn't the point. It's that price action expressed this elasticity and that since then, you've not had another test of that, right? To the downside or the top side. You've had nothing like to test if this is still available. And there's a lot of people in the world with a lot of money, and some of them want to make these sort of things happen because that's where they get a lot of liquidity from. So we'll see which way it goes. But, Doomslayer's by support, not resistance. And a share stock split that's like distributed via dividend that you doesn't dilute your own shareholding. That's a gift. And in the context of where this is culturally. So, GME, number one. What else is we were doing? We were looking at this is such an utter piece of shit, right? It's down 7%. This is such a piece of shit. You've still got that extension down there, right? It could still quite easily, and in minutes, go down to $7.17, and it's 10.76 now, so that's 25% off the top again. It's lost 7% today already, right? This is like, right? That's awful. What are we on daily time frame? And it's got that level of bearish divergence at this. It's like such a terrible, 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 terrible recovery. What a piece of shit. So then we were talking about this and we covered most of that, and you get back to those. And it's the same story, it's the same story. Roblox, another 11%. Jeepers, creepers, McBob faces, right? I've got a chunk of this thing and it's really annoying that it keeps doing that. But hey, right? Opportunities abound now. You've got your gap there. Oh, interesting. Bad murder, but you've got your cross. 200 only just shown up on the daily. Roblox hasn't been around that long, so it's still very early days. Perhaps catch a trend here. If you do break that, you'll go on and make, obviously, lower lows on price action. You're kind of close to that already with a touch of bullish divergence here. It's 1, 2, 3 moves on the divergence, despite the fact that it looks like you're just meeting this previous low once. And that's sometimes why you get those double bottoms, because there's enough of a reason to go back up again. Anyway, 1, 2, 3. If you break that diagonal, you will decisively break this horizontal, in which point you'd be looking for a further extension. There's some of them are terrible, right? It would probably just be here. And you'd be looking like, worst case, around the $30. Which is not great, right? Isn't great. But also, there's far worse opportunities, right? Far worse, right? 1618 there, you broke that at 44.54. I'd still be looking at that as some sort of level to test, even if it happens from here or not. Still interested in it. And then would take it from that previous breakdown there and see what a 236 is. Like, nobody asked for Roblox, and what am I doing? 38.56, so that's what it looked like meantime. Break below the 886 on that previous move already, so you could be expecting continuation. Wouldn't rule it out, that's for sure. Especially if this breaks into the bearish control zone, then whoop, slips off again. Negative trend ascendancy there. That's on the daily time frame. 4 hour, what are we seeing then? Flash these off just for a second. Again with the same bullish divergence. Again potentially breaking that trend though. You've had your sell signal on the MACD play out through all the confirmations, and price actions got to the previous low and no further with this potential bullish divergence. So that's interesting. Negative trend usually turns around here. ADX hasn't come up to the same level. In fact, it's been trending. So the strength of these oscillations to the downside have been getting weaker. This is the third touch of them. At the same time, you see the third touch of bullish divergence here on the lows. And that's on the 4 hour and the daily time frame. So despite the fact that the 50 simple's above you, you've got a golden pocket in and around that region at $45. That's tenner on something that costs 36 at the minute. Right, there's opportunities, right? And then sure you do make it back up the 1618 extension on the same Fibonacci's where the 200 period meets you on 4 hour time frame at 70 odd bucks, right? That's 100% on price action. It's potentially going to happen on Roblox. Whether you take the entry now or not depends on what the RSI does on these tiny little levels. What's the 1 minute saying? Price action, the markets are still open. We've got 10 minutes left, folks. We've got 10 minutes left. Oh my goodness. Can you believe it? Likewise, Deborah Duncan. Likewise. Yo, I've learned so much since what happened? What happened? Doomslayer's bias born on resistance and very true. Oh, hot tip. I was just thinking about checking out Roblox. There you go. Hello. Interesting stuff. Didn't expect that. Netflix. 220 still looks right. This okay. Failed though, didn't it? And then what's it doing here? Awful hidden bearish divergence again. No, it's all right at the minute. Say it's all right. It's fucking... Right, so Netflix. This is one of the things that's interesting about the speculative aspect of markets. Of course, Netflix had their earnings. As you can see, they're on the chart here. They're actually not terrible. But by overall, they were okay, right? 21.65%. That was a surprise. So you would think that's good news, right? You would think that's good news. But the speculative commercials, they came out and they talked about how many people were sharing passwords, and that was seen to be obviously negative. A lot wasn't the trigger for the price action falling, but they did speak about like vastly reduced new subscribers compared to expectations. But their expectations were 2.5 million, and there's 100 million people apparently sharing their passwords, and that seems like an opportunity rather than a threat, if you ask me. And if I was involved in that company, I'd be cheered by that opportunity. And then there's also very other ones, like the market threat to Netflix is in domestic markets, that they'll have, you know, domestic production and they'll set their own streaming services up and whatnot. And you know, that was a threat that's faced by a lot of tech companies, like simply due to sometimes due to inertia in growing from a startup to a worldwide company, that other people are able to spot the opportunity. They see the profit signaling mechanism, and then they copy your business idea. It happens all over the place all the time. And companies like Uber had to go through, like, you know, you'll have seen that. And so, you know, what you do is you acquire, right? And location. That's what Netflix should have, could have, and still can do. Probably will. I definitely think that's a good idea. Anywho, right, so you had this huge drop, right? I suspect at some stage this will come back, but then there's also opportunities for this to go a lot lower. There's your 236 from the breakdown area. Absolutely nothing exciting is happening to the top side until you get back above 238.98, right? And I could definitely see a fake out there. And if you do, you're coming back to this horizontal level. Why is that on the chart? Maybe I drew it in there. Anyway, it's the golden pocket. And perhaps horizontal looking left. That's interesting. Somebody asked me for something and did it wrong. Oh, yes, I didn't see it. Bait buckets. Can you take a look at VLN? You betcha. A trend change coming. Oh, interesting. VLN, fax request from Bait Buckets. Semiconductor engages in the provision of semiconductor products. Cool. Well, on the 1 minute time frame, you're going to see it like that, aren't you? Weekly, let's start here, right? So it's been a very strong downtrend since, well, not very long into its existence, really. You had this repositioning of major market participant, and heartbeat pattern as rocky outcrops defines it. You had at the same time this awful move on the MACD. That was more the the ripples of their move rather than it itself. And there's the DMI talking about it, right? It was a negative position change, despite the fact the price action at the time was going through a drop and then subsequent recovery that took it higher than the breakdown point, right? So you'd be up here thinking, this is so bullish. If you had no idea what you're talking about, or you'd be like, this is so bullish. But if you can see here, right, there was bearish divergence, and then the negative trend was the one that won, and it won emphatically, right? And it surely came back, and there was tests and whatnot, and yeah, but it was the one that was in ascendancy. It was the one prompting this artifact on price action, and it was likely just one account in some sense, like it probably was, right? Or else two. Anyway, well, I mean, it'll have to have been at least multiple to interact with the transactions, but you know what I'm saying. So here's the 50 simple that showed up, and since it did, you've been below it. You've never closed above it, and every candle that you have been above it has been entirely negative. So not great news there. You can see there's a potential formation showing up, but this is like significantly far away off the top side of it. You don't really have two touches there. Let's go with discounting that first one, turn it into a channel. Say you've broken out to the bottom of it. You know, yeah, if you've broken at the bottom of it, tisk. There is it, 56. Right, let's see if we can get back to Jamie for the last few seconds here. It's fallen outside this channel. It's opened and closed outside of it. It's had a wick low to its lowest ever low. The biggest volume came in at that downside of this trend. There was like relatively little that took it back up here, which is indicative of the weakness. You add that to the RSI and this cross on the MACD, and especially the secondary cross through here when it's like, oh, right, like that's like such a nightmare. Anyway, so that's like awful, and it's been in a downtrend. It's been in a down for a very long time, and to bet against that, you'd have to have some really good reasons, right? Are we going to find them in 4 minutes? Not on the 5-day, and but not really on the 3-day, and you can't really use this low on their oscillator as in terms of divergence. You can use this previous one, and you can see that we're actually lower on the oscillator and a price action, so it's not divergent anyway. You're on the 3-day, a similar picture on the 2-day. No, actually, you're seeing a tiny touch of Class B bullish divergence at this stage, so potentially there's a turnaround. You've got the negative trend in ascendance in the ADX way up the wazoo, so you can't bet against that. On the 2-day, on the daily time frame, it's still ADX increasing, falling DMI is the top side, negative cross on the MACD. You're below the 200 period moving average. You got it close enough to the center line to say that it was worthwhile considering. Price action went down as the RSI fell through the center line. Never managed to make it into the bullish control zone within this negative formation, right? And you're firmly in the low side of things and not bullishly divergent there on the daily time frame. And even if you were, it would only be one touch, and I'm not seeing any of it there. 4 hour, you know, continuation, that trend. Perhaps this channel does come with moves, oscillations to the top side of it, and those are usually represented with these sort of accumulation formations, which are best defined with this downward sloping supply line. All of them, perhaps you call it a wedge, looking at it different ways, does seem that the tightening pattern, and then the move to the top side then usually fails at the top side of the formation. Now it's probably at the bottom side, so I'd be looking at this thinking the horizontal levels on the 4 hour in at around 5.52, and then 489, and then there's a gap there. What are we doing? 4 hour time frame, getting back to the daily. There's no gap. Well, I'd be looking at this resistance in at around 470. That'd take you back into the formation, so that might be asking for too much, a little bit too much. I'd say that the trend chain, to judge it now, in anticipation of these lows, would still be catching a knife. You'd need to see some sort of bottom information. I'm not seeing any of that. I'm not getting enough bullish divergence. I'm not seeing on any significant time frame. The momentum is against you here, and you've had recently sell signals, and nothing to say that that move would necessarily have stopped. There are other extensions that you could draw from in this trend. Say the 1618, well, you've got to that. Good shout, mate. Actually, there's an opportunity for a bounce there, and you can manage your risk by taking it from the previous low within the formation on the daily time frame. That maybe be in at around 388. If it doesn't hold there, you'd be looking at this thing going and losing another 50% of its value. So, you know, possibly, but I'm not seeing it on the momentum indicators. Like, and I'm dropped out in the 15 minutes. You're pulling yourself out of the bearish control zone, but you're failing to do anything on price action. I'm not inspired by the DMI, and the cross there is not fantastic either. And price action just in time to get back to. There's a flash. There's the AMC down 1736. That's not fantastic. Where's DME? Why are you not on my list already? Where are you? Wah! There it is. Gotcha. Just in time. 148.91. Ah, just in time to see negative candle in 15-minute time frame. There's 50 simple, still holding price action. It's had a cross above the 200. That's good, but this here isn't. This downward sloping supply line, you can see that that's probably a continuation of this in another aspect. And then you go up to hourly and squeeze a little bit more on, you can see, hey yo, there's another leg down there. It's all part of the same downward sloping trend. 1, 2, and then the third touch that gives significance to this line here. 200 period moving average. You're looking for support here. You move back above 50 simple, but met that tightening condensed range. There we are. Market's closed 148.91. Post-market pricing, oh my goodness, down a couple a little bit. Now, you would rather that there wasn't an awful dump post-market today. That cost to borrow representing a lot of shares that other people have borrowed in order to short. Bait Buckets, thank you. Thank you, Bait Buckets, my friend. Thank you, Bait Buckets. We've known each other for ages now, haven't we? Ages. Brilliant. All you have to do is hold out and not give up. Very true, right? That's all you have to do. That and stay alive, right? You also have to stay alive. But very good point. Yo, how you doing, Joe? Lisa, who can foretell the future? Only somebody who's been there. then have to come back as well. In which case, why would they do that? And in which case, would you want to know about it? Well, they'd have to have a really good reasoning, wouldn't they? Okay, buddies, I'm off to celebrate. Oh, yeah, great. Happy celebrations. I hope we all celebrate my birthday with a little. Oh, my God, it's Shadow of Lepton's birthday. What a fantastic day it is. Great. This day's just getting so brilliant. What a special day it is. Happy birthday, Shadow. Shadow of Lepton. Mr. Lepton. What do you do on birthdays over there in Barcelona? Probably all sorts of crazy things. Great news. Happy birthday. 3 cheers for Lepton. Happy hooray, happy hooray, happy hooray. So we did that. We did a clip. We did AMC. We did GME. We touched on Roblox. VIX, resistance at this level. 200 period coming down. This thing, that is, and this looks like a little bit of accumulation formation. That makes sense. Wow. You got a potential cross here. Price action below the 200 period moving average. That makes that resistance. People would take that trade. 1923. Yeah, they would. Let's see what happens with the DMI. ADX is poised. It's that. Right. On your marks, get set. Lepton's birthday. What brilliant news. It's Lepton's birthday. What else could we possibly do? What can top that? Nothing. Thanks so very much. Hit the like button.